Blog Talk Radio.
Now, get up out your seats. Coming to the ring. Now, but I'm wondering if you can bring in with one win, no losses, undefeated in the streets, weighing in over 300 pounds. IHWE Radio. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I'll be singing. I'm here to get that crowd loud. I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I'll be singing. But I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I'll be singing. I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I'll be singing. But I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central in the great state of Texas, home of IHWE headquarters, but here on the sunny coast of California, where the new IHWE Radio is coming from. It is 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you are listening, as I said, to IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio. I'm your host, Michael McCurdy, the creator and author of Encyclopedia WCCW, and one half of the partnership that is bringing you IHWE California coming in 2015. Joining me is my new co-host. We introduced him last week. 17-year veteran in the Pacific Northwest in the great state of California. I am not going to list off every federation this man has worked for because I don't have the time. But I will say this. He is the other half, not the better half, the other half of IHWE California, Joe Souza. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well, and very pleasant good evening to everybody out there listening, wherever you happen to be, worldwide. We are coming at you from all points of the globe.
That's right. We've had callers all the way from Ireland, actually. Kevin Von Erich back in February, lady called in from Ireland. I think we had a call from Japan also. So, yes, we are worldwide. Usually when Kevin Von Erich's on, but, hey, we'll take it. It's worldwide.
Yeah, no kidding.
But speaking of worldwide, we're going to condense it down a little bit. Last week, we announced that IHWE has branched out to IHWE California. IHWE California is going to be promoted by Joe and myself. We are based right here in the great Redwood Curtain, Humboldt County. In case you don't know where that's at, we're about 5 hours north of San Francisco, about an hour and a half from the Oregon state line. When we say Northern California, we mean Northern California. We're talking redwood trees. Yes, I said Humboldt County, so throw in your weed reference, whatever you want to do. That's where we're at. But Humboldt County has a great wrestling history, and IHWE Radio is the newest chapter of that history. Now, Joe, we all know this is one of the stops in the Roy Shire territory, but you and I were talking beforehand, there's a little bit more history to this. So why don't you kind of educate our listeners a little bit more about Humboldt County's chapter in professional wrestling history?
Well, I'll try to shrink it down as much as I can here because we are running against the clock because we have a whole great show coming your way. We have interviews, news, history, the whole bit. But speaking of history, let's get right to it. Before Roy Shires, Joe Malkowitz. He ran the California territory, except Southern California. As you know, it was ran by Jill Strongbow, Mike LaBelle. But Mr. Malkowitz, he ran until 1959, 1960, I believe, and then Roy Shires came in like gangbusters. Now, Eureka was a stop on the old wrestling circuit by Mr. Malkowitz and Roy Shires. Now, with Malkowitz, you saw such stars as Leo Nomalini, the Sharp Brothers, Gorgeous George wrestled up here in the Eureka Municipal Auditorium. So we've got a lot of history coming, and the Municipal Auditorium, it's still there. They use it for roller skating and other events. And when Roy Shires came in, so did his boatload of legendary talent: Ray Stevens, Pat Patterson, Pepper Gomez, Kinji Shibuya. And whenever you had the major superstars that toured the world over, such as Haystack Calhoun, Andre the Giant, they wrestled here in Eureka as well. They ran spot shows, which compared to a house show is where you have, your local crew to get the talent out there, storylines, what have you, and the smaller towns like San Jose, Oakland, Sacramento, what have you, and San Francisco was basically for their big bouts, the championship matches, the battle royals, what have you. Now, when Shires ventured into like Las Vegas, Nevada, Reno, Reading, and up here in Eureka, they would bring some of the legendary wrestlers as well as the local crew. So you basically got a, dare I say, a WrestleMania type of show. $3.50 for ringside. You can see Andre the Giant, Haystack Calhoun, Patterson, and Stevens. It was just a joy. And a little quick quirk pertaining to me, I attended some of these shows as a little kid. My grandpa, one particular time, took me down to the ring where he put me on the ring apron where the late Chief Peter Maivia picked me up and kissed me on my forehead. True story, folks. I could not make this up.
Oh, that's so cute. Little Joey up there on the ring apron, getting a little kiss on the forehead by Chief Peter Maivia. That's awesome.
I haven't washed my head since. I haven't washed my head since, now, so.
I've stayed in the hotel with them, people, and I can tell you that's the truth. Forehead crusty. It's worse than Abdullah the Butcher's. Nasty. Now, Joe, that's very condensed history version, all that. But now, the new chapter, a couple new chapters, actually, Humboldt County Wrestling. Sorry to bore you, folks. We're just going to get this out of the way real quick. IHWE California, as I said, you and I, we're 5 hours San Francisco. We're about 3-4 hours from a lot of the stops in the Portland wrestling territory, the Don Owens area. So we are right in the middle of two of the greatest wrestling territories back in the day. So for IHWE California to establish themselves here, that's where it's going to allow us to bring the best of the Pacific Northwest and West Coast and combine that with the tradition of Texas wrestling that IHWE has been going so far on to keep a hold of there. So I think we're going to have a really successful promotion there. And I think IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio, Humboldt County's first professional wrestling podcast, is another excellent chapter to add to Humboldt County wrestling history.
Oh, it's going to do really well. Now, as you know, we ran our show last March up here in Eureka, Redwood Acres, and it drew a pretty decent crowd, and the fans that showed up, they loved the action. The boys that came into the building, they took one look at the building, and they just said, they loved the building, they loved the ring. From top to bottom, the card was great. And now, just to emphasize, we have access to pretty much any of the wrestlers all over the world, that are available, which not only including up in the great state of Oregon and in the San Francisco Bay Area, but we actually had a wrestler drive all the way from Salt Lake City, Utah, to work our show this past March. So they know the importance, and now that we are officially under the IHWE banner here in California as a territory, so to speak, the sky's the limit. And now that we actually have an umbrella to work under, credibility, if you will, it's going to be a lot of fun. And then with the radio and also TV on Wednesday nights, the sky's the limit, Mike. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Just let's not forget that, folks. They're immediately after tonight's episode of IHWE Radio. Be sure to tune into youtube.com/IHWE2009. Go to IHWEnow.com. Go to your Roku box, watch YouTube on there. However you can stream YouTube, check out week number 2 of IHWE TV. Last week's debut episode, amazing numbers, stellar performance on that one. David Fuller will be joining us in our second hour to talk a little bit about the premiere episode. The numbers were amazing, and tonight's episode is going to be just that much better. Tonight we're going to have Matt Riviera defending the IHWE heavyweight title against Ashton Jacobs. We're going to have Seth Shai versus Lee Fang. There are going to be some great matches tonight. We are also going to hear from the legendary James E. Cornette, who will be at Old School Hustle September 28th, along with Joe, myself, Barbara Goodish, Stan Hansen, and many IHWE superstars.
And also, without a doubt, and also history is going to be made that night as well. I mean, history is going to be made anyway. You have all these legends and all these celebrities, but for the first time, in recent memory, because it may have happened maybe over half a century ago, there will be a couple of matches that will be broadcasted over the podcast on radio. And for you fans that are familiar with me, you know I do play-by-play, and I will be doing play-by-play. And Mr. McCurdy and Mr. Fuller will be doing the color, which Mike will be making his color commentating debut. And even though a little bit on the nervous side, he is going to do just fine.
I apologize right now if I put anybody to sleep on the night of September 28th. I will do my best.
You will do fine, sir.
Thank you. There's one other small piece of wrestling history. Last week, after we announced IHWE California, we had another announcement. IHWE California is presenting a Texas homecoming. We made the arrangements. Everything's all been signed. We're good to go. And the grappler, Lynn Denton, will be returning to Fort Worth, Texas on September 28th. Now, Joe and I know the grappler. We could tell you a little bit about the grappler, who, by the way, will be here on our show next week talking about his book, Memories of a Masked Man. It's going to be an awesome book. I can't wait to read it. But I'm going to let the grappler himself tell you about Old School Hustle.
Hey, folks, this is the grappler. I'm calling you from way out in Oregon. You know, if anybody in Texas has ever followed my career, which I know there's a lot of people that have, know that I've been all over the world. But you know something? There's one place I hold dear in my heart is the state of Texas. I've wrestled everywhere. I've wrestled everybody from Andre the Giant to little Tokyo the Midget. But you know something? When I come to Texas, I hold that place dear in my heart. Here's the reason why. Because maybe a lot of people don't know, I wore the mask out there with some parts unknown. But deep down inside, I really want to tell you where I'm from. I'm from the great state of Texas. I'm from a little town south of Fort Worth and Dallas, way down by Houston, called Cut and Shoot, Texas. But you know what? When I heard that the IHWE was holding this big show in Fort Worth on September the 28th, and they're calling it the Old School Hustle, I couldn't wait to put my name in the hat. Because I wanted to come down there and show those people what I'm all about skill. I was the Texas heavyweight champion for 1 year when I wrestled for the Bonnets and Fritz Bonnets down in Dallas, and I wrestled all over Texas, and I beat people up, and I got beaten up, I have to admit. But you know something? I can't wait to get there September 28th to the Old School Hustle, because if there's anybody who knows about old school, let me tell you something, people. It's the grappler. Okay? I've been everywhere, Maine, Spain, Spokane, and back again. 37 years in the sport of professional wrestling. I put in my time, and I promise you one thing. When you come there with me, it ain't going to be old school. It ain't going to be new school, guys. I'm fixing to take somebody to school when I come to Fort Worth, Texas, September 28th. Be ready, because I guarantee you, when the smoke clears, when I leave, they're going to be saying my famous tagline. They got a name for you when you're the greatest wrestler in wrestling today. They don't call you a great wrestler. They call you the grappler. Beat me, if you can, in Fort Worth, Texas.
Now that man right there means business.
I got some goosebumps going up my back. I mean, this is going to be one tremendous card, especially with the grappler there. You know, and, we do know Lenny, and I've had the pleasure of calling a few of his matches up in Portland, him teaming up with Moondog Moretti against Scotty Mack, the Northwest champion at the time, and Terry Taylor. That and also a couple of other ones, but Grappler, just a legendary performer, legendary wrestler, icon, if you will, in Texas and in Oregon. Makes his home up in Oregon, and all the feuds that he's had. Oh, my God. It's going to be just, as the great Frank Bonomo would say, it's going to be Katie by the door. I'll tell you that.
Oh, definitely. I'm glad we were able to get the grappler to come to Fort Worth, Texas on the 28th. It's going to be fun, and like you said, when the dust settles, man, whew, some boys might be leaving with a few bruises, if you get my drift.
Yeah, I hope it's not us.
We're gonna skip. You're definitely not going to be us. I hope. I'll stay out of the way. But we're going to go forward a little bit. We've been talking a little bit old school. We're going to move forward here. We're going to talk a little new school, whatever the headlines are today. Guarantee you TNA will definitely be at the top of the list, because everything has been going on in TNA the past week. But to discuss today's headlines and the news of the modern world of professional wrestling, let's bring on one of our new members of our team, Mr. Austin James. Austin, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. You don't hear that too often, huh? Usually you're doing
phenomenal.
Good. Yeah, because people are like, oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing, I'm like, I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. I'm IHWE Radio, right?
I'm gonna start calling you AJ Styles. Phenomenal.
Well, there's a lot going on in the wrestling world right now, but mainly, I don't know if you guys have the WWE Network, but they're going global within just a few days. Next Tuesday, August 12th, they're going global over to 125 different places, and that's really one big thing because the network launched for us in the United States this past February, I believe, or March. February,
yes.
And then, it took a little while, but now they're going to be getting it globally starting August 12th.
Now, Austin, for those of you who may have been deaf or weren't listening or had the TV on mute, just how much is the WWE Network per month?
It's only $9.99. Let me tell you something. You can get it on your iPad, your iPod, your iPhone, your machines. I'm not really, all your eyes. You can get it on all your eyes.
I hope this wasn't a shot from 2 nights ago on Monday Night Raw. I'm not going to go any further with that one.
Me? No.
Yeah, they only mentioned it
once. I wanted to know how much the WWE Network was. $9.99 a month. Only $9.99 a month. $9.99. That's going to be the theme for tonight's show. $9.99.
How much?
$9.99. If you got $10 in your pocket, you don't need $10. You only need $9.99. Put that penny back. $9.99.
Yeah, and for only 6 months. 6 months. It really is a bargain. I don't know if you guys got it, but if you don't have it, I feel bad for you.
Oh, I have it. I've had it from day one. I was one of the poor fools that sat there for 3 hours trying to connect because of all their crash issues and everything else they had. But yeah, it's a good deal for $9.99 a month. David's probably sitting at home right now saying, "Michael, shut up."
And besides that, and TNA has definitely been a huge headline, and with supposedly, nothing was ever made official. Impact Wrestling never posted anything on their website about it going, Spike basically, kicking to the curb. But I'm not going to keep them. I'll continue to say this until it happens. I don't believe anything they're saying until Spike TV or Impact Wrestling posts something officially on their website. So they're saying they're going out of business. They're taking them off of TV. I'm not sure about that. And they're in New York. They're doing their tapings, and I believe that they're going to be doing it until the beginning of October, and then they're basically done.
Yeah, the beginning of October, I believe, is when the TV deal is supposed to end. But you're right. Nothing has been said by either TNA or Spike TV. If you ask anybody from Viacom, all they say is they don't comment on negotiations. So obviously something's going on. And there's other avenues that TNA are going to follow. I talked about this on the weekend with a Board Wrestling fan. And, yeah, there's a lot of options they can follow. But the story with TNA just gets crazier as the week goes on, because first off, we heard they were losing their TV. Then we find out that it's basically supposedly due to Vince Russo, who Spike did not realize was working for TNA. A lot of people didn't know. Suppose that was supposed to be a secret deal, which he accidentally emailed Mike Johnson from PWI Insider instead of one of his own people within TNA. He accidentally did that. Yeah, oops, yeah. So you got all that going on. Vince Russo has now said he is done with TNA. He has left, although TNA said he was fired. So Vince says he left, TNA said he was fired. Then you throw in, you got tweets coming from everywhere from Matt Morgan all the way up to Smith Hart. We're not going to talk about Smith Hart because that's just one other chapter in one crazy-ass story. We'll just say he blames Vince Russo for killing 2 wrestling promotions. And it's ridiculous. The story just gets crazier and crazier. They're still signing wrestlers. The last night's tapings, I believe, was the debut for the Chris Melendez. Sarge lost his leg in the war, so we got the one-legged wrestler in TNA. They're announcing 2 more pay-per-views for September. Plus, they've got Bound for Glory coming up, and they're still signing people.
Yeah,
so
Bound for Glory in Japan
going
this year.
Is normal.
Yeah.
Right, they have the deal with Japan and all that. Yeah.
A lot of big stuff they're still promoting things to happen in the future, and I'm not really sure where it's all going to go, but I know they have a deal with Japan and because they're kind of shaking hands with Great Muta's promotion, Wrestle One, and they're kind of a team there right now. So Bound for Glory is going to be teaming up with Great Muta and his friends at Wrestle One. But I know besides that, SummerSlam is just around the corner. I mean, it's like 2 weeks away. And I don't know about you guys, but Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella is going to be a fight.
I was kind of curious. I mean, I know Joe's opinion sometimes on the ladies' matches. I'm hoping it'll be a little friendlier on air about them. But they're building it up well.
I'm working on it.
Okay, that's good. They're building it up well. They're not just throwing them in the ring and saying, okay, you're going to fight. You had Stephanie McMahon slap Brie. Brie filed the charges. Brie wanted her job back. She dropped the charges. She won the match against Stephanie. They built it up. The contract signing was entertaining. I thought it was a decent pedigree. Obviously, she learned from somebody. I don't know who. But
nah. All I'm going to say is this: the build up, it's well done. The slap, the charges, the police, a very slow, gradual build up. Dare I say, old school wrestling 101 maybe, but I just hope that the match itself at SummerSlam is going to be worth all the hype that they're putting into this, because there'll be such a letdown if that's the case. And as we all know, WWE, they've been known to lay an egg a couple of times, right? When you think, wow, this is on the cusp of an outstanding event or a match. So this has the makings of a classic. Dare I say, yes, Mike, you heard it from me, a classic. I mean, the build-up, the contract signing, everything. I just hope it meets the hype.
Oh, definitely. And you've also got John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. They're building that up well. Lesnar, when he makes a promo, he does good. Don't give him Mike live in the ring. He'll admit to it right there. He screws up. But videotape, he does well. The promo he cut, they did the whole video package on Monday. I'd be a little scared to step in the ring with Brock Lesnar. The guy's legitimate UFC. This isn't like, he's not just a professional wrestler. He's a legitimate MMA fighter. If he wants to, the man can make you bleed quickly. So.
So there's something that's happening between, Brock Lesnar and John Cena, because, WrestleMania 30, Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker. Now we're seeing, this is where the unpredictability comes in, because you never know. You see a guy that beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. John Cena beat Brock Lesnar in Extreme Rules in 2012. Was it 2012? I think it was. At Extreme Rules,
yeah.
And so I'm not sure what's going to happen. It's really WWE title, and if we have Brock Lesnar as a WWE champion, I don't know how long he's going to be in that role for long, because Brock doesn't like to be in a position where he has to travel and everything, because he likes to go in, do his thing, and leave.
Well, plus he's not full time. And he's part time too. So how is this going to pan out? If he becomes champion, will they just have him a couple of times a month on Raw or a pay-per-view? House shows, you begin to wonder, will he run the house show circuit? We don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. But that itself, even though we've seen him go toe-to-toe a few hundred times, there's a little bit of a difference on this one. Like you said, Mike, on Monday night when Lesnar gave the promo, it was almost borderline of an interview with no person holding the mic in front of Lesnar's face. Lesnar was good. When he made the comment as he stands over Cena, and Cena's going to be in urine, blood, and vomit, that's like old school, holy cow. And being that said, to the average fan that watch Monday Night Raw, they should be able to shell out their $10 and get the penny back and get the network, or if they don't have access to the network, just get the thing on paper. How much?
$9.99.
$9.99.
All right, but like I said, from top to bottom, this could be a classic card. But we'll just have to see what happens.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna. If I'm John Cena, I'm not gonna want to, get peed on in the ring, right? That in itself is something that I'm gonna stay away from. You talk about a perfect storm.
That is a perfect storm, yes, indeed.
I'm just trying to get him feet on in the ring, but I think he meant he might leave him in a puddle of his own. I'm hoping Golden Shower doesn't become one of Brock Lesnar's finishing maneuvers, because I will turn off the TV. I don't care if I paid $9.99 a month. I don't care. I'm
How
done.
much?
$9.99. $9.99.
Okay.
That's right. Now, kind of interesting, before I bring on Brian Westcott and go a little old school, get a little history, there's something else that kind of came up the past couple of days that I had to touch on for a second. We know Randy Orton is going to be facing Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. We also know Randy Orton has a problem with Twitter. I guess it's a few days ago he tweeted a picture of some girl that he met and referred to her as the Latino Miss Piggy. And then another guy commented about him being dishonorably discharged, and Randy Orton fired back with it was a bad conduct discharge. And then when a fan asked about asking questions, Randy Orton threw out, if you want to do a Q&A, go talk to Ziggler or Ryder. Randy Orton on Twitter is becoming his own worst enemy, it seems like. The last couple of days, it's just been Randy Orton tweeting just random, and I don't know. Randy Orton's just irritated. He's not happy he's facing Roman Reigns. Is he a little disgruntled, or is this just Randy Orton being Randy Orton?
Well, in this case, normally for every action, there's a reaction. And being that social media is the thing of the day, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, what have you, every little thing you're going to say, you're going to be scrutinized. So that's why I always emphasize anyone that gets on those, if you're going to tweet or do a Facebook blast, make some sense or do something that you're not going to go Barney Fife and shoot yourself in the foot. Case in point, Randy Orton. And now he has this going, and I don't think it's going to go away very soon. It's going to I wouldn't be surprised if it escalates, because there are people, with the discharge type of thing, there are people that, actually was in the military, that type of thing, and it could just get out of hand. And I just hope it doesn't happen.
Just take Randy Orton off of Twitter. I think we'll be okay.
I agree with that.
I actually seen something online. One quick thing, on the billboard trucks, the trucks that WWE rides there has all the ring and crew stuff in there. On the side of it said SmackDown Thursday nights, 8/7 Central and Sci-Fi. So this was posted a few days ago. A fan took a picture in front of it, which gives the impression that SmackDown will be returning back to Thursday nights. Now, I think WWE is smart enough to know that if they would move, they're moving kind of, Impact Wrestling's time slot, at least in an hour of it. So I don't know what they're trying to make of this.
I did see the picture of the truck, and that's another thing you got to add to the TNA mystery. If they move SmackDown to Thursdays, that could be just another nail in the coffin of TV for TNA, unless they decide to move to another night on a different channel or a deal with Spike. So I believe the move possibly would be in, I think their new TV deal starts in September, is when the new WWE TV deal starts. So I don't know if that's going to be a factor at that point in time, but yeah, that's another one. I did see that picture.
I didn't see it, but with TNA, I would be greatly concerned, and you would think that they would know what's going on, because they too they're on the pulse of this business, and who knows if they're smart, maybe they need to move to another night, because even though we saw quite a few years of the Monday Night War, this would be a Thursday night train wreck. That's all I'm going to say about that one.
Amen.
Yeah, we already saw Impact try to go. Yeah, we already saw Impact and Raw WWE try to go head to head, and we saw what happened. Monday night Impact didn't last very long.
No, it didn't.
But we're going to go back.
They couldn't last long.
There was just no way. You can't compete with WWE even if they're losing the money and they're making all the budget cuts. WWE is still the big dog. And I'm not going to make this the pro WWE, we love you show, but you got to admit that, they're the big dog. They're what everybody wants to strive to be. Can they be it? No. They can try. But instead of trying to be WWE, you need to try to be a competitor. So if TNA fails, maybe Ring of Honor can step up. Somebody's going to have to do something. But we're going to go.
Interesting.
Yeah, it would be. But we're going to go back a little ways here. Before you had the federations with the YouTubes and the Twitters and the Facebooks and the LinkedIn, and I think you mentioned Pinterest last week there. We're going to talk a little bit of wrestling history with Brian Westcott, and he should be coming on here in just a moment. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Good. How's everyone doing?
Phenomenal.
Doing well,
Phenomenal.
thank you, sir. Phenomenal.
I'm gonna go with good.
Happy birthday to Jimmy Valiant. He turned 72 today.
Ooh, mercy.
72 years young.
Yep. Today I thought we would talk about Smoky Mountain Wrestling. 20 years ago today, it was Fire on the Mountain in Johnson City, Tennessee. The main event was Road Warrior Hawk, Tracy Smothers, and Bob Armstrong. They defeated Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk, and Bruiser Bedlam in a best-of-7 falls Texas death match. Brian Lee and Chris Candido, they won the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team titles, beating the Rock and Roll Express. Now, yesterday, August the 5th, on another 20-year anniversary, was the Night of Legends in Knoxville. 5,000 people packed the Civic Coliseum in Knoxville, and that was just a great show. Rock and Roll Express defeated Brian Lee and Chris Candido to win the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team title. Chris Jericho Lance Storm beat the Heavenly Bodies. Jericho had a broken arm, and he was bleeding all over the place that night. And then August 4th, 19 years ago, was known as the Super Bowl of Wrestling, which was another big show in Knoxville, I think it was. But the main event was, believe it or not, Shawn Michaels defending the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Championship against Nature Boy Buddy Landel. Buddy Landel, at least he was getting his second win back. And Cornette, of course, was usually given us a top heel. Landel basically did a shoot interview promoting the show. He got himself over, got the match over, just told about basically now he was on the cusp of greatness in Jim Crockett, and he, like a fool, he got involved in some things he shouldn't have gotten involved in and paid for it. And he talks about how God basically miraculously saved him and turned his life around. And like I say, it was just a great interview. So like I say, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I know a number of people miss it. I miss it myself. The promotion started in October of 1991, ended about December of 1995. Of course, Jim Cornette he realized he could not compete against Vince. Of course, he went to work for Vince, and some of his talent went along with him. But it was a great old-school territory. They based out of Knoxville, based out of Johnson City, Tennessee, but eventually went to West Virginia, and other places. So, pretty big week. August has always been a good month for pro wrestling.
I like Smoky Mountain Wrestling, actually. I thought that was kind of cool. And a lot of the guys you see now in WWE and past whatever, they came from Smoky Mountain. Because I believe that's where Kane got his start. He was wrestling as Unabomb. I believe he was a tag team with Al Snow.
Yep.
Sunny came from there. That's where she started off as the I forget her gimmick at the time. It was Tammy Fitch, and she was supposed to be the Hillary Clinton scholarship something or whatever. She was the college girl, and great talent
territory
there.
it was.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Brian Lee, of course, and, of course, legitimately his cousin to The Undertaker. Yeah, there was the forgettable, as we want to forget, erase from our brains, please, that horrible storyline, Undertaker versus fake Undertaker, that they did for SummerSlam 1994.
Amen to that.
I remember that. Yeah, Brian Lee is the Underfaker, basically, is what it was. But David and I talked about that one time about bad gimmicks. We did a bad gimmicks a while back, and Undertaker versus Underfaker is one of them. The only good thing about that angle would have been the vignettes they did with Leslie Nielsen as Frank Drebin going out trying to find the Undertaker. He went to the kosher deli and he went to the jewelry store, and I mean, those were great. the build-up was kind of fun. The vignettes were great. That was back when WWE was full of having the little characters, and you had the vignettes and the little 3 or 4 minute bits and all that. But the match itself was... Yeah, but the match itself was just horrible. I will flat out come out and say that right now. That was a bad match. It was a bad ending to what could have been a good angle, but just the match was horrible. Brian Lee was definitely not at the level of The Undertaker. Looked like him, but did not wrestle like him.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And of course, yeah, you had other stars make their debut. Of course, Al Snow and the Heavenly Bodies came from there. D'Lo Brown as well, the Headbangers. Of course, a number of talent went to Ohio Valley Wrestling, and Jim Cornette went there to help out. So yeah, it was just
I didn't know D'Lo came from Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, D'Lo Brown. He was a kind of a handler for the Gangstas, New Jack and Mustafa Saeed.
Yeah, he was security. That's right. He was a security guy.
See, I'm learning things on this show. I did not know D'Lo Brown worked with Smoky Mountain, and I did not know he was with the Gangstas. So even I can learn a little something here and there. So it's not a bad idea. That's why we have Brian on here, because I don't know this shit. Pardon my language.
Easy there, big guy.
But yeah, if you ever get a chance, if you could ever find the Wrestling Gold DVD series, the Night of Legends is on DVD, and it's especially get it for the insider commentary with Jim Cornette and Dave Meltzer. That's worth it alone. Also, the Night of Legends, they did a great historical series about the history of professional wrestling in Knoxville, which goes all the way to the 1930s, and they talked about the different promotions that came and went under John Gazzana, and Southeastern Championship Wrestling, then USA Championship Wrestling Continental, and of course with the Smoky Mountain Wrestling coming along. But just a lot of great talent from there. And of course, the Armstrongs, Bullet Bob Armstrong, like I say, he was kind of one of the reasons why Smoky Mountain Wrestling did so well. At least according to Jim Cornette, you had Bob Armstrong, you had Rock and Roll Express as a top tag team, of course. And then you had Tracy Smothers and Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, and they just all helped with the mix. They did, of course, bring in a nice mix of veterans and bring in some young talent. It was just a great, great territory.
And you're talking about that.
WWE, of course, now owns the video footage.
Of course.
I think anyone ever wondered what had happened. But
maybe they'll put it on the network.
Yeah.
How much?
Yeah. All right, people. $9.99. Thank you, Joe.
$9.99.
$9.99. We're gonna beat the record, guys. We're gonna beat the record. I think it was 42 times the network was mentioned on Raw. I'm gonna beat that. Let's go for like 50. We're close.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Lord.
You know that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was gonna say that Wrestling Gold DVD that you're talking about. Actually, it's a really good value. The price for that DVD is still, affordable. For 5-disc sets, a 5-disc set, right? Different, covering different time periods. And I'm not different time periods. Kind of like different. I'm trying to remember what it was. I have it, but it was 5 different sets. DVDs in this one set, and I think it's like $24 on Amazon. Really good value.
Oh yeah. And of course, depending on where you can find it, you can even get it cheaper than that, too.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I had to order the Paul Heyman DVDs. If I can't find it around here in stock, so I got to order it from Barnes and Noble. But at least I got it done cheap, so didn't have to worry about shipping. So I'm looking forward to getting that. That DVD came out yesterday. So, like I say, about the only WWE thing I'm really interested in, is of course the historical stuff, and of course I was a big Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously fan.
Yeah, I plan on getting that myself. Big Paulie fan, and especially, that mind of his, with ECW and everything else. Business-wise, we all know the story behind that, but I'm just talking about, from a wrestling standpoint, the man's a genius.
Exactly. And that's how everybody on the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD and the Forever Hardcore DVD, they all agree on two things on Paul Heyman. And when it came to in-ring product, he was an absolute genius. But when it came to the finances, he was a horrible businessman.
Oh, definitely. His business skills is what kind of killed ECW. They were running just on, word of mouth. They were hoping for paychecks towards the end. I've heard stories where guys were owed thousands for working, but they still worked. That's how much they were dedicated to ECW and how much they believed in it. They were working for basically on a handshake.
Yeah.
And if you watch the ECW DVD, when they finally realized that it was over was the day that Paul E. showed up on Monday Night Raw as the replacement for Jerry Lawler, who I believe at that point in time had left because of the whole incident with his girlfriend or whatever. Right. But yeah, that's when a lot of them found out. That was when ECW was over. Paul Heyman was on WWE Monday Night Raw as a color commentator with Jim Ross.
Yeah, and of course,
kind of
that was the real nail in the coffin right there.
Yeah.
And like you guys were talking about earlier with the current going on with TNA, yeah, it appears like things are still moving along like normal, but like say, we won't find out until something's really official. I mean, the similarities with ECW and WCW, the way they went out, and with TNA right now,
that's true.
It is scary.
We're going to find out that TNA is over when Dixie Carter shows up as the manager for one of the guys. She's one of the valets. She'll be with Fandango. That's how we'll know.
Yeah.
She comes out, man.
Ouch.
No, there are definite comparisons, though. We were talking about that also Sunday on my interview that I did. But, yeah, ECW, they got a TV deal. Their TV deal was on the National Network, or originally the Nashville Network, which became the National Network, which became Spike TV. So we're kind of seeing the same happening all over again. TNA got a TV deal, it's with Spike, and now, for some reason Spike TV and wrestling just don't go hand in hand. They had Raw for a while, and then USA got it back. So Spike TV and wrestling maybe it's not a good combination.
Well, the only difference with this and with ECW and the National Network, or Spike TV, if you will, the difference was towards the end of the ECW run, Paul Lee was openly degrading the network. Basically, if we're going to be lucky to be here next week, I want to thank you fans for watching. We haven't seen that part from TNA yet. So either they're just stone-faced and just ignoring business as usual, or maybe there is something going on that, very, very few people know about. We'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and they're also being represented by UTA, which is a United Talent Agency. So they're actually being represented by an entertainment agency who's helping to try to get them a new TV deal, which is another issue there, because whatever deal they get, the agency gets, I think it's like a 15% cut of whatever the deal is. So they might get a deal, but they may end up getting less money than they had with Spike because they've got to pay their agency for brokering the deal for them in the first place. There's a lot of variables going on with TNA right now.
My goodness.
But, yeah, it's a story. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again next week. But we're at the 6:43 mark here, 43 minutes into our show, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners are bored listening to us by now. Maybe not. They might like us. But we are going to bring on our guest for tonight. Hopefully have us going on at 6:30, but we're going to go with this. He is a world-renowned wrestling photographer. If you've ever read the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines, you're going to know this man's name. Mike Lano will be joining us in just a few moments. So I'm going to, if you guys want to kind of talk a little bit about some old school, some new school, give me some news, I have to make a phone call. It's the first time I've done this. Live radio, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if I can get Mike Lano on.
Well, Joe. Yeah, I was gonna talk about this earlier when you guys didn't have me on. Lynn Denton, I'm sorry to be the dark cloud on here, but I mean, wasn't he the guy to get DDT'd first by Jake Roberts?
Yep. That is the trivia question. He was DDT'd by Jake Roberts, and hence that was the birth of the DDT.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from the Jake Roberts DVD, Pick Your Poison. He tells that story. There are people who dispute it, though, right. So maybe we'll get the actual truth from the grappler himself next week if any of us dare to ask that question.
I'll ask it firsthand.
I'll stay behind Mike. Okay.
Hello.
Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. This is Mike and Joe with IHWE Radio, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. We're not live yet, right?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Oh, we are live. Okay.
Yes, we are.
I'll just let you know when I got to bail. I've got a last-minute newspaper deadline.
Okay,
Mike, how you doing, my friend?
But good talking to you both, and you guys might be happy. Out of the blue, I get a call from Bonnie Gomez out of Stockton, and she, wanted to talk. She talked to Fritz von Goring last night, and she wanted the wrestling world to know, hopefully never forget her husband Pepper. I told her I don't think that's going to be happening. No,
not even close. Legendary wrestler in the San Francisco Bay Area and in Texas as well. He wrestled in Dallas. Dear friend of mine, rest his soul. And when you see her, tell her I'd like to wish her well too, Mike, please.
Yeah, they want me to try to get a plaque. When he passed away after the memorial, I went to the service and everything. It was kind of an all-day deal, and we went out to Washington Square Park in Alameda, where they lived for 26, 27 years. I could be wrong, but somewhere in there. And they planted a tree, which is still there, but there's not a signifying plaque. So the city, doesn't want a plaque there for some reason. So I'm going to try to speak before the council. But Pepper also he wrestled quite a bit for the Vern Gagne-affiliated IWA promotion in Japan in the 70s, when there were three promotions from about 1973 on, All Japan, New Japan, and IWE, rather, not IWA, IWE. And Pepper also is a multi-champion in Dick the Bruiser's WWA promotion in Indianapolis and Detroit when they had the war against the Sheik, which was one of the great territorial wars. But anyway, if your audience doesn't know who this old geezer is, I've been shooting for the magazines as a photographer and magazine writer since 1966, and I was based primarily out of Los Angeles, the LaBelle territory. This was the third stringer. We had other older photographers that shot for the program. I was the young kid. But I started shooting for the magazines, had my first text piece with photos in an After magazine. Well, no, it was a Stanley Weston magazine. He was the editor and our boss. Bill After didn't come about till, I think, early 72. But those were the magazines that are termed After magazines, and then they started sending me all over the place. They started coming up. I went to all over the world, and was shooting, but a lot of time in San Francisco, to where Alan Bolte in the program used to list me as the official photographer, because there was oddly no photographer at the Cow Palace in San Francisco for Roy Shire, except the 5 times a year I'd come up until I moved up here permanently and became an office worker for Shire in January '79. But there were guys at his TV in Sacramento and Larry Barnheiser and the smaller faraway towns, the so-called satellite or spot shows, or anyway, like Modesto and Stockton. But they oddly didn't have a full-time photographer at the Cow Palace, so I came up for the Battle Royals and the bigger shows. And but anyway. So that's it in a nutshell. And I also do I do my own wrestling radio show, but with Evan Ginsberg, Legends Radio. But we have a lot of musicians, and we branch out, and we've been doing that for like 14 years. Now I see Goldberg and everybody else, Diamond Dallas Page, have podcasts where they sort of do the same thing. I mean, for example, I've had Paul Reiser and Andrew Dice Clay and Joan Rivers, and it keeps it interesting. So as much as I love wrestling, I like Hollywood and all that sort of stuff too. But I'll shut up. I don't know if you guys have questions or how you conduct the show. I know there's a lot of history. Obviously, Michael is king of the Dallas historians, at least outside of Texas proper. And
yes. I get that a lot.
Have you guys heard how Harley Race is doing? He had major spinal surgery yesterday, so we want to definitely Monday he had it. We want to send good vibes and prayers and well wishes out to Harley Race.
I heard he's doing okay.
I haven't heard anything yet. Okay, there we go, Joe.
It was major, and also I'm not sure if Larry Matysek, who was a longtime announcer, and he's the major St. Louis guy. I'm kind of an underling. I put on a 3-day Sam Munchnick territory convention in 1992, and love being sort of a St. Louis historian, but I'm not even close to Larry Matysek, who has written books and written a Bruiser Brody book and a St. Louis NWA book, and but he's got major back problems. He couldn't go to Waterloo, Iowa, and George Shire told me to send out some prayers for Larry, so I don't know if he's going to have similar spine surgery as Harley. Bruno had it, and he had the same type of surgery Jack Briscoe did, and Bruno doesn't ever take any medication. He had like hip replacement, no meds, no anesthesia. He doesn't believe in drugs, which is like more power to him. I would not have the courage to do that.
No.
That gives him straight into a whole new meaning.
Yeah,
definitely for
you're gonna cut into my back.
I don't know how you could do that. You'd have to be knocked out. Maybe he had somebody potato him and knock him out. Because how on earth are you going to deal with severe pain like that?
I mean, Bruno's been through a lot of stuff. The Holocaust. I mean, he's done it all.
Yeah. Bruno, who I consider one of my best friends, I still enjoy talking to him at least one Sunday every month. He wants to know what's going on, and fortunately I can lay it on him. And I got pissed off that he did that Hall of Fame because I don't think any one of us want to see Vince McMahon holding his hand up. But he got the terms that he wanted, and it was pretty much the rationale, as you guys probably heard, was you better do it now, because when you pass away, we're just going to do it anyway. So at least this way his family could benefit and never have to, want for any monetarily stuff for medical. Because, medical expenses, none of these wrestlers, that's one thing I've sort of championed since about 1987, 86 in newsletters like The Observer, which is the king of the newsletters, is none of these guys, well, maybe the modern day, but I'm talking about our territory guys. They didn't have Keogh plans. They didn't have any promoters put aside money for their retirement or retirement health care, whatever those kinds of accounts are called. And so you see so many of these people. I mean, I was kind of aghast when I went to Pepper and Bonnie's for the first time. You would think a guy like this who wrestled all over the world, made promoters millions and millions of dollars, would be, he just wasn't well off. And there was a struggle finding, it just breaks your heart when you see a lot of these guys. Or, Fritz von Goring, who Bonnie Gomez was talking to. He's had some, some of these medical things, if you have them, they can wipe you out, particularly wrestlers who may not have planned or been able to save or put aside money because they didn't have that sort of training or knowledge. And then when they retire, it was so many of them, with the exception of some of these modern-day guys who are set for life, like a Sting or a Steve Austin, perhaps, or a Rock or something like that. I mean, you don't have to look farther than Hogan or Flair. They got to still work. All that money is blown, but the guys before them that laid the groundwork for the Hogans and Flairs didn't even make 1/10, 1/50th of what the guys of today make. So it's, I don't know. I tried coming up with an idea. I might have talked to Joe about it when we first met many years ago, about possibly, I don't know who would oversee this, maybe Cauliflower Alley Club, something like that, where fans could set aside money either in a general fund to help, and now CIC does that, but I'm talking about people could maybe earmark and say, gee, I'd like to contribute X amount of dollars every year to a wrestler's medical fund. That I know maybe Donnie Fargo might need money at his age, 80 or something like that, or Cora Combs, another great legend, who didn't make the money they should have. Many of them were ripped off by promoters. And, you have one hospital stay, and it's devastating, particularly for a wrestler who may not have made the money and then may not have known about saving it or putting it aside, or, may not have been able to, even if they wanted to put it aside. Not everybody was an Angelo Poffo who was, very shrewd, and we see that now in someone like Mick Foley, who watches the money and might clip coupons so they can put 4 and 5 kids into college, and you have to say more power to that and respect them. But I'll shut up.
Anyway. I remember. I vaguely remember several years ago. We actually talked about that, and maybe with the 50th anniversary of Cauliflower Alley coming up, maybe it needs to be brought up again.
Well, Cauliflower Alley does a lot. They have a tremendous base of members, and I've been going since the early '80s, and have been either a backup photographer to Art Abrams, who's co-founder with Mike Mazurki. I started doing that in '87, and became lead photographer for them. But they do an awful lot of good, and they help people out in need. But I'm maybe talking about maybe CAC could establish this, where somebody, a fan or anybody, a friend of a wrestler, could earmark somebody and just contribute maybe specifically for them, or a general pool, in addition to all the great stuff that Cauliflower Alley does. If someone's got a hospital stay or they're really in bad straits, CAC will help them out. But and it doesn't have to be CAC either, but they're the most ethical outfit out there now with 50 years of history. Nobody comes close. And
one question I have for you, Mike, and it pertains to my all-time favorite pay-per-view, and it was the AAA When Worlds Collide at the LA Sports Arena, and you were one of the photographers there. And what was it like working? We've talked, privately.
It was disappointing because I was supposed to have been announcing the thing with Chris Cruz.
Right.
Ron Scholar. Now, I'd been shooting AAA since the start, when they broke away from Paco Alonso's group, which was far older and had all those stars. Ron Scholar started it. He had one person who was a complete screw-up doing PR, and in the meantime, I had been doing the programs for him, and then he elevated me to doing PR, and I was sent out to Chicago and New York, the building adjacent to Madison Square Garden, which we used to call Felt Forum in the 70s. But I was there doing all the radio PR and TV PR and putting up, organizing street teams. We did, this is Ron Scholar would buy these AAA shows, and for ages, several years in a row, he brought them to L.A., and then we did Chicago and New York. And so in Chicago, I asked if we could do an in-ring honoring of Bob Luce, who was a longtime Chicago amphitheater legendary promoter. He was sort of the face for Dick the Bruiser and Vern Gagne. They were really the ones that were running the thing. But and then we went to New York, and then we did the same thing for Pedro Morales, where Conan, myself, Perro Aguayo gave a plaque to Pedro, and blah, blah, blah. So then after that was the L.A. Los Angeles When Worlds Collide pay-per-view. I came up with that stupid name. It was simply from a science fiction movie, and because old versus young, you had Perro against Conan, or in there, but you had young generation and the older guys like Perro, is what I mean to say. And Ron was going to do this pay-per-view, and it was going to be, he said he was going to have me, because I had, X amount of knowledge of Mexican wrestling history, and Chris Cruz, who was late of WCW. But and I think he was out of there. Eric Bischoff and he hadn't seen eye to eye. But anyway, Scholar needed a pay-per-view arm, and so he was stuck partnering with WCW on there, and for about a year prior to that, Bischoff had already hired these 900 line guys, all of these sheet guys, that he was able to get. And Mike Tenay and I had been doing a show with Rick Carter out of Vegas, and that's Mike Tenay, was a longtime L.A. wrestling historian, and he moved to Vegas, and he was working at one of the casinos. And the late Rick Hotline Carter had this show, so we were all co-hosting it with another guy that passed away, a total legend, Bill Potshot Kunkel, who did a lot of cartoons for the Torch newsletter. And these are brilliant cartoons. They were like the best pro wrestling cartoons ever. They could have easily been in Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. But anyway, so Bischoff said, now the announcer's going to have to be one of my own on-staff guys. That was Mike Tenay's very first thing, and he did an excellent job. And he went on from there. But he had just simply been doing their 900 hotline thing that Lee Marshall always shilled. And so I was stuck then just doing the photography and sort of being the policeman for the photographers. But I had shot far better shows. That was a good show, but I had shot the Triple Manias for I can't even think of his name now, the guy that passed away that started AAA when he broke away. And some of those Triple Manias were like 6-7 hour shows, particularly the Conan versus Jake Roberts, Hair versus Hair, where Jake lost his hair. And that show had everybody on it, and it was an even better show. But I love shooting. I mean, Los Angeles was my home base territory, and for better or worse, Mike LaBelle kept bringing in Hispanic guys. I was there when Mil Mascaras debuted, and so many others, Gordman, Goliath, Raul Mata, everybody, Francisco Flores, all these great guys. So I've always had a love for that and Japanese wrestling, and I've shot there many times, meaning Japan. But the Triple Mania thing was very good, and I dragged a friend of mine. Art and Eddie were very upset that Pena had sort of screwed them over. When the match was done, you noticed they didn't shave their heads in the ring. They were so pissed off at their payday, and they were also going to, they wanted to go to ECW. I had been nagging them about that because they were upset that Pena had not been. This is Antonio Pena. That was the name I was trying to think of for AAA, the owner and founder, genius of AAA. They were getting screwed on paydays, and then at this When Worlds Collide pay-per-view, they got screwed on the payday for losing their hair. So that was why they just shaved each other's head in the locker room and showed some footage of that. They were pissed. And so I'm sitting there specifically, interviewing them while they're shaving each other's heads at that When Worlds Collide thing, and asking them, gee, I think you guys might be happier in ECW. I can arrange help, at least put you in touch with Paul Heyman and some of his people, blah, blah, blah. And so Heyman ended up, when Art Barr died, he used that footage. And that was me interviewing those guys and getting comments about ECW from Art and Eddie, who were amongst my very favorite people ever.
Right. They were, as a matter of fact, there was interest about maybe a program against Public Enemy or against Benoit and Scorpio.
Yeah, that would have been great, because I was also going back and forth and shooting most all the big ECW shows, like the Great November to Remember in '94, where they were on there. It was the Malenko brothers against Sabu and Taz. That was just like an way underneath match. That tells you how great that card was. And it was capped by Steve Austin was supposed to be on it, but WCW kind of screwed that up for him. So Brian Pillman teamed. I forgot if he teamed with Too Cold Scorpio or Ron Simmons.
Yeah, Ron Simmons.
Teaming with Shane. That was the one where Sherry came out and managed him. But Sherry showed me, she painted right on one of her boobs it's like an acrylic of Ric Flair. And so the angle was at the end, she showed her true colors and showed her heart. It was a heart with Flair's image on it. And Shane somehow sees it, and that's when he pile drived her at the end of that. That was one of the best November to Remembers ever. I mean, the opening match was, and I said this I was interviewing one of the pit bulls, the surviving pit bull, a couple of weeks ago on my own show, and it was like a double chain, double juice opener on that show with the pit bulls against Ian and Axl Rotten. It was just how do you top an opening match that has everybody, goring and bloody? But ECW managed to do it. They had some great, matches, and Benoit, and I saw some awesome Benoit and Dean Malenko, just classics back there. So, that's one of my favorite promotions of the modern era that I've shot. There's a lot of, the territories. I loved every single territory. Every single one of them. Every single one was unique and so much fun and far different than another. Michael is doing all this work on the Dallas Fritz von Erich territory. But that was great, but there were so many other ones that were equally fun. St. Louis, so athletic. Eddie Graham at the peak of his powers was another one that was just athletic. And then I would hitch a ride and go to Chattanooga and Nashville and Memphis and some of those smaller towns around there. But particularly Nashville was a whole lot of fun. And, it was totally different style than the stuff I saw in Florida, which, all amateur great guys and doing wrestling that looked so real, so completely real, like St. Louis, some of the better stuff there. And then you go to Detroit and you could either go to a Bruiser, Dick the Bruiser show at the Olympia Stadium, or of course the fantastic Cobo Arena that Sheik and Joyce promoted, and see the wildest stuff you've ever seen. That was so many people. I just can get tapes. Not everything is on tape, but you really miss something in the territories. It was just the absolute best.
And you're speaking about all these places, and you've been to Japan. How was it like being there? I mean, getting an opportunity like that must have been something that you've been wanting for a while.
Well, first time I shot there was the Jack Briscoe dropping the title to Baba and then regaining it about 7-8 days later, December of '74. So that was a huge thrill. Anytime you can see an NWA title change. We had one a couple of months ago in Vegas for Cauliflower Alley, but this was the real NWA, not, I'm not putting them down because those guys had a 5-star match. It was amazing, but, that I just hold the original, say, NWA in my heart a little bit fonder. So that was awesome. And then coming back, I had never been, I really wasn't aware that the first week of January, it's not just New Year's Day celebration, the whole week. You hear people today say Americans don't take enough vacation time. Well, Japan, the whole first week of January is New Year's week, and they're all off, and that was perhaps one of the greatest wrestling experiences for me because I was getting burned out. I was shooting 3 shows a day. You might have an early morning or a noon show at Karakuan, a New Japan show, and then those guys would stay around and help All Japan Women set up their own ring and gimmicks and stuff a little later in the afternoon, and then an evening FMW show. So in the course of one day, I'm shooting New Japan, All Japan Women, FMW, and then the next day I've got JWP, SWS, the Tenru group, and maybe JWP, the women's, and for 7-8 days, I got burned out, and then Meltzer asked me to go back March of 1991. I'd come back, and like 6 weeks later, he goes, "Let's go to the first Tokyo Egg Dome WCW NWA versus New Japan, big huge show." So I was able to get away earlier than him. That week that trip I stayed like 3.5 weeks at my Gong magazine editor's house. And we toured with the Universal Group, which was all the absolute best lucha talent were brought in, guys like Santo Jr. and Perro, Brazos, Villanos, Kendo, Solar. And then they had guys in their first rookie years, pretty much, or maybe not rookie years, but they weren't masked and they had yet to assume their styles. Yoshihiro Asai, who later became Ultimo Dragon, and a guy working under a stupid gimmick, Monkey Magic Wakita, who later became Great Sasuke. So that was so much fun. I was touring around with both All Japan Women and then this Universal group, and taking in some of the other groups like Tenru's group. And then the day of this show, March 21st, 1991, it was a little later in the afternoon, so that morning I got to go and meet with the original Tiger Mask, Satoru Sayama. He put on a shoot, sort of an MMA type show at Korakuen, which is within walking distance of the Egg Dome, Korakuen Hall. And then I went over for the huge, big, spectacular, the Flair Fujinami thing, and that was like 15 hours of wrestling. And when that was over, then we go to, I forget if it was the banquet room at Keough Plaza Hotel, the after party, where everybody, Flair and Scott Norton and Arn Anderson and Ron Simmons, are all, Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader, they're all arm wrestling and throwing in their Rolex watches and money and all this, arm wrestling. So yeah, that was maybe a day and a half nonstop of no sleep and nothing but wrestling. So that was, anytime you can go to Japan, and the audiences, there's so much more to wrestling than Japan. When you go, you want to, I mean, this was 1990 and 91. It was the first time I ever saw high-def TV. I got up at 4 and went with Debbie Malenko to see Fish Markets, which was an incredible sight, and taking the bullet train, the Shinkansen, to different places on my own. I learned some basic Japanese to get around, and if you go from Tokyo to Kyoto or something, a fairly lengthy bullet train. I recommend that for everybody. And if you're in California, and if they ever do build a bullet train, you want to stand on the platform, and hopefully you'll see a train that doesn't happen to have to stop. It's just a complete blur when they're going over 200 miles an hour or 273 miles per hour. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And so many cool things in Japan. If you go to their electronics, Ginza, Tokyo districts, or Shibuya Station was where Vader took Meltzer and I out to eat to a Korean, it's called Olympiad, all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue. We're both starving because, the portions are small. If you go to like an Americanized Denny's in Tokyo, you'll pay like this was back in 1991, you pay $28 for some pancakes and sausages, and it's all tiny. But Vader said, no, I'm going to take you to this place. And we went there. It was all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue and drink. You have sake and beer, and that was like $28, $29 or $30. And at least we were finally getting filled. Anyway, you just have to go. Japan is amazing. Wrestling, and then so much more. And all these other countries, too. If you go to England or Australia in the heyday, or Austria, or that's for a lot of us who were pen paling. So I'm bringing us back to Joe Sousa's day, my day in the territory days, the 60s and 70s. We learned the geography of the U.S. Yeah, right. All of you guys. We learned the geography of the U.S. through wrestling. I didn't know much about Chicago or where it was in relation to Detroit or St. Louis or Knoxville. But through wrestling, you eventually learn the geography of the U.S. and a little about each city. So it kind of helped when you're in the elementary school or junior high. And you can say, oh, gee, all of these famous things, and the capital of this state is such and such, all thanks to pro wrestling.
That's how I know most of my stuff about Texas, is through wrestling. So I'm going there in September for the first time, so I'm looking forward to that. But as far as the cities and the towns, you mention a town, I can say, oh, that was his territory, that was their territory. So, yeah, that's kind of my geography lesson for the state of Texas.
Yeah, it's
now, I don't want to put you on the spot. I have one question I'd like to ask you, though. You've been in this industry for, decades. Sorry to age you there for a minute. But what has been, if you can come up with one, maybe two, what has been your favorite moment to shoot as a photographer over that time?
First time shooting at Madison Square Garden of X amount of times, and of course first time in Japan. Madison Square Garden, which I haven't talked about, for a Bruno title defense, the place went crazy. He didn't need pyro, he didn't need a robe, he didn't need entrance music or a girl on his arm or anything fancy. And the place was so loud, deafening. And I've been there for Hogan stuff. There was nothing like the noise for Bruno Sammartino. And one of my favorite ones to shoot was him against another guy I just idolized, Don Leo Jonathan. and it was their first matchup. And Jonathan has that amazing robe. It was a brilliant darker blue on the outside, and then he opened it up, and it was just like turquoise, blinding, shiny on the inside with some psychedelic patterns that matched that on his trunks. And it was just so colorful. Two of the greatest legends ever. And the match did not disappoint. You know, they had a series there, and at other arenas I got to shoot, like Nassau Coliseum. But that particular one, that wasn't my first time at Madison Square Garden, but it was one of the loudest ever. And people viewed Don Leo as a serious contender because the guy could drop kick and do all of this amazing stuff that big men. Honestly, I never saw Ernie Ladd do a drop kick. I might be forgetting TV from other venues than I shot him in, but so those are my big thrills. And then, like the first time a Vern Gagne or an Ernie Ladd or the Sheik calls you at home for something, that's kind of a thrill. I don't know if that was the question, but those are my two favorite memories, or amongst, those are one that come to mind, is those incredible venues.
That definitely answers the question. I hate to say this, though. We're going to have to kind of put a wrap-up on this interview. We'd love to have you back on again sometime, talk some more wrestling history if you're ever interested in coming back. But we are running a little bit of...
That's my alley. I think that's all of us love history.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah, we'd love to have you on again sometime, and thank you for joining us tonight, Mike.
Oh, no, thank you, guys. Domo arigato gozaimashite, combate kudasai.
Yes.
Take care, my friend.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're being joined by another guest. Not a surprise guest. He texted me earlier this morning and said he was coming on to talk for a few minutes. So I told him I'd give him the floor because this is his show. It's his brand. David Fuller. David, how you doing tonight, man?
It is my brand. I created this show, and you're telling me we got 5 minutes. I created this flipping show.
I like
this. This is my brand. That's like telling Vince. That's like saying, hey, Vince, you only got your quarter segment's only 5 minutes. You know what Vince would say? Yeah, you know what he would say. It's like telling Heyman. That's like telling Heyman. You can't do your shoot promo tonight on ECW, Heyman.
Why do I have a feeling on September 28th there's going to be an added grudge match? Why do I have that feeling?
That could happen, Joe. You might be carrying Michael home to California. You might be carrying Michael. Which, man, I don't know if I want to do that to you.
Carry on baggage limit there, sir.
I think you do too. Well, I'm doing well, Michael. Thank you for having me on my show. I greatly appreciate it.
You can come on anytime you want. I appreciate it.
Greatly appreciate that. Your gratitude is outstanding. Let me tell you, it's staggering. I'm baffled and bamboozled by your gratitude. Let me tell you.
David,
ladies and gentlemen,
phenomenal and bamboozled.
Bamboozled and baffled. Let's get that trending. Bamboozled hashtag. We got a all new edition of IHWE TV. I cannot express how happy I am to the hundreds of people that have downloaded and watched the season premiere. I think the last time I checked, which was about 5 minutes ago, I believe we are at 368 watches for the season premiere of IHWE TV, and that blew me away. Wow. We did 100 within 24 hours. So, thank you, everybody that watched, everybody that gave feedback, everybody that tweeted, that messaged me privately, that posted. Thank you so much, because I had a vision, and, I was going into uncharted waters, because, so many people were like, oh, that's stupid, why are you going to do that? It's not really TV. It's not on a traditional TV channel. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm looking towards the future. I want my brand to be global. And we are global now. Anybody anywhere in the world can pull up IHWE TV. And I'm proud of that. And you don't have to pay a monthly fee to do it. It's all free. I'm proud to bring professional wrestling back from Dallas-Fort Worth on a worldwide basis absolutely free of charge. That's the way it always was. You didn't have to pay to see World Class Championship Wrestling. You didn't have to pay to see the Global Wrestling Federation unless you had cable. But back in the day, and I'm going to say that, I guess I'm one of those guys now. Back in the day, if you lived in the market, you got the show on basic television, UHF station. So, anyway, I'm extremely happy, and I want to thank everybody who took the time to watch this. The half-hour throwdown. Because last week was so good, and because everybody enjoyed it, I'm going to give you 10 extra minutes tonight. That's right. I'm giving you 40 minutes of wrestling tonight for absolutely free. And we've got 3 big matches tonight. Li Fang, the Chinese warrior who spent some time down at WWE NXT, the old developmental territory, which is known as Border Championship Wrestling. He was known as Kenny Lee. Li Fang is going to take on the Blackheart Seshai, a 3-time DFW champion. Also, APOC, a skilled veteran of Southwest Wrestling Wars. He's going to step in the ring with a Texas Wrestling Hall of Famer, a man who's been in the ring with Bruiser Brody, Abdul the Butcher, Carlos Colon, a man who's wrestled at Madison Square Garden, the Prince Al-Farad, the Crown Prince of Crimson, the man from Damascus, Syria. He's going to have in his corner Mr. Ken Kelly of Kelly International. And then in the main event, Mr. 5.5, the current reigning and defending IHWE champion and past recipient of a Cauliflower Alley Club award. Did that for you, Brian. He will defend the title against Ashton Jacobs, the same man that came within a hair of becoming the Dallas-Fort Worth champion last week. We almost had a champion versus champion match here tonight, and that would have been awesome. But Ashton is, now he's got a chance. I was so impressed. People were like, why did Ashton Jacobs get a shot? Well, I'll tell you why he got a shot. I'll tell you exactly why he got a shot. I was so impressed with what Ashton Jacobs did in that 3-way last week that I said, you know what, I'm going to give you an opportunity at Mr. 5.5 for the heavyweight championship. So Ashton's going to get a shot. I do things a little differently in IHWE. I don't answer to anybody. The only people I answer to are our fans. And our fans enjoy that. And they like to see a kid like Ashton Jacobs get a heavyweight championship match because you don't see it every day. And if that's not enough, not only do you get 3 matches, but tonight, for the first time ever, you're going to hear from the man who's coming down here September 28th. For the first time ever, he's going to address the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Well, I say that, first time ever. For the first time in 20-something years, he addresses Dallas-Fort Worth. Jim Cornette will address the IHWE fan nation tonight at the top of the hour, right after the very first match, right after Li Fang and Seshai. You will hear from the man himself, Jim Cornette. And like I said, it don't cost you nothing. Go to youtube.com, IHWE2009. Go to IHWEnow.com. It's going to be on the front page. It's going to be on the IHWE TV page. Go to our Facebook page. Go to our Twitter page and check it out. But tonight, you will get 40 minutes of awesome wrestling action, and it doesn't cost you one single solitary penny. All you got to have is have internet, man. Wi-Fi, wired, whatever. If you're bootlegging it off your neighbor, hey, that's your prerogative. Watch IHWE TV before you get busted. Have you got a lunch break tomorrow? Go ahead.
So you're saying that I don't have to pay $9.99 a month in order to watch IHWE TV?
No, what you have to pay a month is whatever your internet service provider charges you every month. That's all you have to pay. That's all you have to pay. Whatever that is a month. Mine sure as hell isn't $9.99 a month. I wish my internet service provider was $9.99 a month. I'd be a hell of a lot happier.
No, I'm talking about the WWE Network, available for only $9.99 a month.
How much?
$9.99 a month, man. That's been the running tagline for the night. Sorry.
I think we just broke the record.
That horse has been beaten, shot, bludgeoned, burned, and drowned. Let me tell you. WWE Network. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you a question real fast. You brought up Mr. 5.5, Matt Riviera. September 28th at Old School Hustle, we know that Matt Riviera will be there. We also know that Morgan Dollar is coming. He's not only an executive board member of the Cauliflower Alley Club, but a very well-respected referee within the industry. There seems to be a little bit of an issue. Morgan's got a problem with Matt Riviera. You know, and can you shed any light on this? What's going on there?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
A lot of people have a problem with Matt Riviera. He is rubbed, Matt was traditional championship wrestling, and he did so many good things. He presented Bobby Fulton with a check at Mid-South Reunion, Mid-South Fanfest back in April during WrestleMania weekend. He was a recipient of a Cauliflower Alley Club award a couple of years ago. He was just really, and he still is, as a competitor. Matt Riviera is one of the most respected guys around. But, he's just been taking a lot of shortcuts. He's been taking shortcuts. In Alabama, he was scheduled to defend the IHWE Championship against Americos. And right before the match, because somebody took my belt, can't defend the title. And he was defeated by Americos, pinned 1-2-3 in Alabama. Then he calls me up the next day and he says, I thought somebody had taken my belt, but we got the guy, and I might be pressing charges. Well, had I taken the time to investigate that, I think I'd know where it was going to lead to. He's been taking a lot of shortcuts, and I think that's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially Morgan, who goes so far back with the Cauliflower Alley Club. And the Cauliflower Alley Club put him over and it made him a recipient of a very prestigious award. They don't give awards to just anybody. And, me and Morgan have been talking, and then Morgan heard what he did to me. And you're going to see that in the forthcoming weeks on IHWE TV when he put his hands on me. Matt Riviera, he's not going to be here in August. He's not even going to be here till September. Matt Riviera is going to have a very long night because the Grappler called me last week, and the Grappler's heard some things too. Matt Riviera, and then I'm dealing with Black Bart as well. He's not happy about what happened down in Galveston when Matt Riviera and Tim Storm had a match for the IHWE Championship, and they made a mockery when they brought a beer bottle in the ring, and Tim Storm smashed it over Matt Riviera's head. People believe they were in cahoots. So, Matt Riviera, he's in for a long night. And not only that, but I have a problem with Matt Riviera. And like I said, there's a time and place to handle it, and I'm going to handle it face-to-face in September. I'm not going to handle it over Twitter. I'm not going to handle it over Facebook. I'm going to handle it September 28th. Morgan Dollar, the Grappler, there's a lot of people, Americos, there's a lot of people that have a problem with Matt Riviera. So it's going to be interesting. But to answer your question, I think Morgan does have a problem with Matt Riviera. And Matt purposely kept Morgan away from him in Charlotte this past weekend. He had security around him the whole time. And Morgan could not get to Matt Riviera, even to have a conversation with Matt. That's all he wanted to do. He was there representing the Cauliflower Alley Club because Brian Blair was there. Brian Blair wrestled Matt Riviera. Okay, so Morgan couldn't even get around Matt because Matt has security all around, and they wouldn't even let Morgan around him. So, but I told Morgan, you want to come down here in September? No problem. I'll make sure whatever you want to say to Matt Riviera, you get your opportunity. I told Morgan, you want to come down and do it? You have all the resources you need are at your disposal. Come on down. Because I have that much respect for the Cauliflower Alley Club, and I have that much respect for Morgan Dollar. I'm excited.
Well, that answers that question.
Did I kill the show? Hello? Did I kill the show? Okay. You're back.
No. You did exceed your 5 minutes I offered you, so, I mean, some of our listeners might have hung up by now, but I did get... Yes, Joe.
Oh, okay. All I got to say is, being that said, for our fans out there, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, IHWE fans, you've got to be there. It's going to be a tremendous card from top to bottom, and it's going to be pure pandemonium.
It really is, and we haven't even announced all the matches. We haven't even put all the matches out there. I mean, this is going to be a television taping for IHWE TV. There's going to be a Hall of Fame ceremony. We're going to be inducting new members into the Hall of Fame that night. But guess what? You're not going to find out who unless you show up that night. For the first time ever, we're announcing, hey, we're inducting new members into the Hall of Fame, it's because it's a special night and it's a special event. And usually I don't like to do that. Usually I do all the inductions in one day in March. You know what? I said, you know what? This is a special night. We're going to give fans, because for the last 3 years, fans have been beating down my door saying, why can't we be at the Hall of Fame? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give fans the first time ever, not only in the building that night, we're going to show the fans all over the world what the Hall of Fame really means. So that night we're going to have special inductions, but guess what? We're not going to announce who. The people getting inducted don't even know. So it's going to be interesting. It might create the best or the worst induction speeches. I don't know. So, but we haven't even announced all the matches. You do have to be there. Jim Cornette's going to be there. Sandalaria Hansen's going to be there. And one thing we're forgetting, we're talking about all these legends. The PWG heavyweight champion, Kyle O'Reilly's going to be there. He's one half of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Johnny Gargano was just up here in June, and he tore the house down on Wednesday night, August 27th. Fans are going to finally get to see Shire versus Gargano on IHWE TV, and they're going to get to see what all we're talking about. But I'm really looking forward to Kyle O'Reilly being down here. This is going to be the first time ever that he's wrestled in Dallas-Fort Worth. He's been to Texas twice, both times for Ring of Honor, I believe in the San Antonio area, but he's never wrestled up here. It's going to be awesome.
I've said this before, but Kyle O'Reilly is, I honestly think he is the best wrestler in the world today. I say that wholeheartedly.
He's got the PWG Heavyweight Championship, and to be the PWG Heavyweight Champion, not only that, he's one half of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, and to be a champion in either of those organizations, you have to be able to hang. Everybody that knows anything about this business knows the people that have wrestled and carried those championships. The names are synonymous. So, and he wrestles every weekend. He tours internationally. I think he's going back to Japan soon. I think it's after our show. Kyle O'Reilly's the real deal, and I think people will be seeing more Kyle O'Reilly over the next 5 years, but I'm really glad he's coming down here. That's what makes our show special, ladies and gentlemen. And this is our brand, and this is our show, and we're not going to spend all night talking about it. You've had a great show so far, and I'm really impressed with the new format. I think you've got a great cast here. This has become a really great ensemble show. But that's what makes it so good. We are the ultimate hybrid between new school and old school. We bring you the best of both worlds. So we're not too new school for the old-time fans to like us, and we're not too old school and stuck behind the times. We give you the best of both worlds, and I think that's what makes our product our product. We don't need to say we're better than anybody. We're not. So anyway, IHWE TV tonight, 10 o'clock at the top of the hour. Go to YouTube, go to social media. Next week is the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal. I'm really excited about that. What an emotional night. Also next week, Craig Johnson steps behind the microphone again for the first time in 22 years. Craig Johnson was the play-by-play man for the Global Wrestling Federation. He joins Rob Moore next week as they call the Terry Gordy Battle Royal. And next week, fans will be able to hear from the commissioner of IHWE, Mr. Blackmark. Word.
Sounds like next week's episode will be a great one, just like this week and last week. IHWE TV definitely is the show to watch. I enjoy it. I get sneak previews, and I still watch the show when it airs live for the first time Wednesday nights on YouTube. So, what's that tell you?
Well, we've got an interesting next few weeks. There's going to be some IHWE classics coming up in between our tapings. We're taping again August 30th. With our DFW Championship rematch. I can go into a little more detail now. Maricos will be defending the DFW Championship against Gregory James and Ashton Jacobs in a triple threat match. This time it's going to be 2 out of 3 falls, and I will be the special guest referee. I'm going to need to start hitting the gym now. If you saw the match last week, can you imagine what it's going to be like 2 out of 3 falls August 30th? That'll be taped right to WTV, and then we will have a monstrous taping September 28th, and I believe our season finale will be sometime in December. So, yeah.
And there are plans, of course, I'm hoping there's plans for a second season to come up next year at some point.
I believe there is. The show has been. It was all depending on how well the show was received, and so far it's been received very, very well. As I've told everybody, this is a new process for us. We're still learning. Every episode is going to be different. You know, if you see an issue, feel free to email me about it. I have a great editor down in Houston. We're doing what we can with the resources that we have. I believe the show is top-notch quality. At the same time, we will make mistakes. We just ask that everybody bear with us. I'm not coming out here saying, oh, this is the greatest produced television since world class. No, it's what we have, and that's what we're doing. We're putting out the best product that we can. We hope everybody will enjoy it. It's not perfect, but I enjoy it, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, folks. It's not just taking a show, putting it into a computer, encrypting it, and putting it on YouTube. There's so much editing. There's so much planning. I have to watch the show 2 or 3 weeks before it airs. There's a lot of work involved. So, Johnny T, down in Houston, thank you for everything that you do, sir, because you're the one who makes IHWE TV a reality.
And on that note, we're going to thank David for joining us. You did exceed the 5 minutes. There you go. I gave you 25
keep saying that. I'll call in every week if you keep saying that.
I'm not surprised.
Every week. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great show, folks. Top of the hour, 10 o'clock, IHWE TV, and I will see y'all later. Bye.
All right. In case any of you missed that, top of the hour, 10 p.m. Central, IHWE TV airs its second episode free on YouTube. We don't do $9.99 a month for the IHWE network. If David had that idea, he might try, but it's free. But on that note, we're going to bring this show to a close tonight. I'm going to let the guys give a chance to let them people know where they can find them, how to contact them. But first, I will give out my little bit of information. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Encyclopedia World Class. You can find me on Twitter at MichaelMC1972. And you can hear my lovely voice on YouTube on the IHWE Radio archives. Joe, how can people find you on social media?
Well, they can find me at, just go to Facebook. The name, JOESOUSA. Just find me. I'm the one with the tuxedo and the bald head, and I have some kids around me with an old-school Earthquakes jersey. You'll figure that out. Also, emailing address, Joe Souza, WCWC@gmail.com. I check it periodically. Shoot me an email. Tell me what you think. And I got to tell you what a way to open with a bang with the illustrious Dr. Mike Leno. Great stuff, guys. Austin, Brian, Mike, great to hear from y'all. Lots of fun stuff. And don't forget the top of the hour. That's 8 o'clock here on the West Coast, IHWE television. And what a barn burner we have tonight for you.
Oh, definitely. And Joe, hold on for just a second. Don't want you to go anywhere yet. Austin, how can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on there at @the_Austin James on both Instagram and Twitter, and just type in my real name, Austin Porsche, not like the car. People just think it's that way. That's Porche on Facebook. If you want to be my friend, I'll be your friend. If you don't have any. You can find me there. Find me, the only place you can't find me on is Pinterest, because I don't have a vegetable garden to post any pictures of. So that's the only place.
Maybe we should grow one. But man, Austin will be your friend if you want. If you have no friends, Austin will be your friend. Isn't that nice of him? It's a public service announcement from IHWE Radio. And
it's not the $9.99. It's free. I'll be your friend for free. Scratch the $9.99.
Free. Shut up, Joe. Let's not forget, though, Austin, next week, Tuesday, on your other show, Pipe Bomb Radio, which I did forget to mention that when I brought you on today. Pipe Bomb Radio airs Tuesday nights on Blog Talk Radio. Your guest will be Danny Cage from the Monster Factory Training School.
Oh, my God, it's going to be amazing. Larry Sharp's Monster Factory. Danny Cage, he's been around. The Headbangers trained there, Big Show, Sheamus, along with so many others, and it's just going to be great to speak with him.
And, Brian, how can people find you on social media, and is there anything you would like to plug at this time?
Well, definitely. You can reach me on Facebook. Just look me up, Brian, B-R-I-N. Westcott, WESTCOTT. I also have my own wrestling website, www.brianrich, that's one word, BRINRICH.net/wrestle.html. And there you can look up the title histories on all different types of wrestlers. So looking forward to next week, and definitely, and yes, get your tickets, get your reservations for Cauliflower Alley Club 50th anniversary bash for next year. That place can hold 710 people for the banquet, so get it while you can.
There we go. And next week, you can join all of us here again on IHWE Radio, 8 p.m. Central in the great state of Texas, 6 p.m. Pacific here in the great state of California. Next week's guest will be the Grappler. But, guys, I think we broke the record, but let's go one more time. Once you get off the show tonight, if you want to watch the WWE Network, how much is it?
$9.99.
$9.99.
Joe?
How much?
How much is it, Joe?
$9.99. There.
Damn straight, we beat the record. Vince, you can write the check out to IHWE Radio. Thank you, everybody, and join us next week.
We'll see you next time, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.